All right, let's begin with a federal appeals court partially blocking a ruling that had halted approval of the most widely used abortion pill in the United States. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals granted the Justice Department's emergency request to put on hold part of last week's ruling by a U.S. district judge in Texas that suspended the FDA's approval of mifepristone. That approval dates back to the year 2000. The appeals court did keep part of the Texas judge's ruling in place, which means for now, the number of in-person visits patients are required to make to get the drug go from 1 to 3, and the drug will not be distributed by mail. The Department of Justice still can ask the Supreme Court to completely block the original decision by the Texas judge. Let's bring in now former litigator, MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin. So, Lisa, help us sort through this. This broke overnight. We've been talking about it a little bit this morning. So there is still access to this abortion pill, but some of these restrictions imposed by the Texas judge do remain in place?
Absolutely. About 7 years worth of restrictions, Willie. And I think the one that has the most impact on American women is the fact that mifepristone will no longer be available through the mail. After the Dobbs ruling, there are creations of what we would call abortion deserts all throughout the country, states where women don't have legal access to abortion or are far from a clinic that's still operational. If you can't get mifepristone by mail, your access to abortion just got that much more difficult.
So one of the judges on this three-judge panel in this ruling, the circuit court, basically said, if it were up to me, I'd just completely get rid of the Texas judge's ruling, thinks it's not valid. So what is the future now of this case as you look ahead?
I think that the Department of Justice is going to seek guidance from the Supreme Court. They're going to immediately appeal this partial stay to the Supreme Court for two reasons. One, it cuts off access to women in all sorts of ways still, notwithstanding the fact that the 2000 approval stands. But also, this is still at odds with that Washington federal court ruling that prevented the FDA from changing any of the existing regulations to abortion. It's not possible for the FDA to abide by both, and they're going to have to escalate this to the Supreme Court.
Lisa, how quickly will the Supreme Court have to act? What could
have to act, Elise, is a great way of framing the question, because the Supreme Court, as you know, doesn't have to do anything. Before SB 8, which was that Texas abortion bounty hunter law, took effect, advocates went to the Supreme Court before that law took effect, and they were essentially looking for immediate action from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't act. The law was able to take effect before the Supreme Court ruled. So the Supreme Court can let this Fifth Circuit ruling stand through Saturday morning and beyond. What the Department of Justice is hoping, however, is that they will act before Saturday at midnight.
Lisa, a lot of people are worried, I wonder if you are too, as someone who understands the law so well, about the precedent this Texas judge's ruling could set for the future, which is, I don't like a certain drug. I object to it on moral grounds or religious grounds or whatever it is. So let's just overturn the FDA's approval.
Absolutely. This is a full frontal assault, Willie, on the authority of the FDA. And that's why you saw earlier this week 400 pharmaceutical executives in an open letter say this ruling is essentially lawless because it disincentivizes drug research and development. If it can happen to mifepristone, it can happen to anything. And as you know, mifepristone is safer than Tylenol. So if the FDA is saying mifepristone isn't safe, what does that mean about your medicine cabinet?
So the bottom line, for the moment anyway, is that mifepristone is available, but it's more difficult to get.
That's correct.
Okay, so you can't get it through the mail. You've got to go see your doctor a few times.
And you've got to see your doctor 3 times. That's right.
3 times. All right, we'll see how this plays out. MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin sorting through it for us. Lisa, thanks so much.
Thank you.
For more on the politics of all this, let's bring in MSNBC host Simone Sanders Townsend and associate editor and columnist at Real Clear Politics, A.B. Stoddard. Good morning to you both. Simone, I'll start with you on this question. There's the legal side of it, which we just walked through. Let's talk about the political side of it and why more Republicans, including, I think, almost every senator except one from Mississippi, have not come out in support of this Texas judge's ruling, perhaps because they understand the politics are very bad for them.
Yeah, I think that cannot be overstated, Willie, if you will. Look, there is a new survey that was out from a group called We Count, and they looked at abortion access across the country post-Dobbs from July to December of 2022, and they found more than 68,000 people in America, women, could not access the abortion care that they needed between July and December. They didn't say Democratic women, right? They didn't say women that voted for Joe Biden. It's more than 68,000 women, period. it. And so I think the reason you have not seen more Republicans pounce on this, if you will, is because what is happening runs counter to what folks have run on for years. Folks ran on the Republican Party apparatus organized for years around overruling Roe, right? Returning this decision to the states. They did not organize around jailing doctors or fining or jailing women for seeking an abortion. They did not run on getting rid of all abortion, coming after birth control, but that is exactly what is happening across the country.
So, AB, you've got a new piece out for Real Clear Politics titled 2024 Republicans Can't Wish Away Trump or Abortion. On this issue, you write, quote, in private conversations throughout the party, Republicans are trying to figure out how to dump Trump because he has led the party to defeat in the last 3 elections. Yet, the prospective candidates, except for former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, who wants to restore a GOP that no longer exists, have thus far refused to challenge Trump. Are voters with Trump because he's the champion of less government or regulation or lower taxes? He never mentions that stuff. They are with him precisely because of his destructive personality, because he fights Democrats in the media. They are with him because he rejects humility and decency to punch large swaths of the country in the rhetorical nose. They know him to be a man of abhorrent character who makes sure he is rarely ever seen with his grandchildren. And they know that he tried for 2 months to steal an election and then incited an insurrection where people died. He leads all primary polling. The words of A.B. Stoddard. So, A.B., it is true in private conversations, people would like to wish Donald Trump away. And yet, even as they do so, he continues to climb in all the polling in the Republican primary.
Right. So, Willie, I mean, we've seen for 8 years with Donald Trump that hope is not a plan. Republicans always hope that somebody else will take him on so that they don't have to suffer politically at home and they can keep their jobs. There is widespread desire to get rid of Donald Trump. There are people in the 2024 field, some declared candidates already, and some who are positioning themselves to be a candidate for the primary contest and win the nomination, who are running technically against Donald Trump, but none of them will take him on to take him down. And it is the same issue with abortion. They believe that they can wish this away. And it is not up to anyone, Kim Strassel of the Wall Street Journal or Ann Coulter, to tell the party this is a panic level liability. It is up to the people in the presidential field running against Donald Trump to reset this debate so that it is not an electoral liability for them next year. At the same time, as we all know, Donald Trump is surging, not only past his lead rival and real threat for the nomination, Ron DeSantis, but in light of his indictment, he received more endorsements and his lead has grown since Alvin Bragg release those charges against Trump. So this is a party paralyzed at the very top level. We know that they want to get rid of Trump. Frank Luntz wrote a piece that I mentioned in the column on Sunday with what I think is a bunch of ridiculous suggestions about how the party can emphasize humility, hypocrisy, decency to get away from Donald Trump. Frank Luntz is an ally of Kevin McCarthy's, the speaker, a close friend. This is not a secret that all throughout Republican elites and the establishment, they would like him to just go away and fall under his own weight. But no one seems to be able to stand up and talk about abortion and say, let's be where the country is and be back the consensus position, which is an early legal abortion with exceptions. And let's say that Donald Trump, because of January 6th and because he lied about the 2020 election, is not electable in a general election. They are silent.
And yet, Rev, the only place we hear that kind of criticism is in memos to donors, like Nikki Haley put out a couple of days ago saying Donald Trump is too backward looking, he's too divisive, we have to move forward. They don't come out and say it. They just sort of whisper it in closed rooms.
Which shows that they really don't have the kind of mettle you want to be president. If you're going to be the president of the United States, you have to show you can defeat somebody like Donald Trump to get the nomination. And that would do a whole lot for you then becoming a real contestant in the general election. If you're intimidated by Trump, why would we trust you with world affairs with Putin and others that are threats to the United States? And I think one of the things that people are missing or not speaking as often as they should in the whole question of reproductive rights is even in the black community where we've had segments that have been conservative on this. We have in our National Action Network convention as we speak. Alexis McGill Johnson is speaking this afternoon, and many of the ministers that have been pro-life, that's even in NAN, even though I've been pro-choice, are saying they're going too far. We want to hear what she has to say. They will energize a turnout for the Democrats that they may not have gotten, because between women's reproductive rights and guns, they're starting to energize a base for the Democrats that the Democrats would have had to work a lot harder to get.
Mark.